Hey, it's Chris. Weekly roundup, crowdfunding. What do you need to know? What's new this week? What's on your radar? I skipped last week. We got a few from last week, but we have a bigger smattering from this week. A lot of different stuff. A few things that are going to rattle my cage, and a few things that I just need to get out there for you guys. As well as, you know what? We're just going to talk about some cool looking games. Let's do this. Everything you need to know on a weekly basis, pretty much, Fridays. You know where to be. Here. Let's do this. First up this week, we have to be talking about it because this is now the fourth campaign for 6 games, several of which from the first time around, the second time around, or maybe even the third time around have not been delivered. This is Queen Games' latest addition into the sprawling city collection of Stefan Feld, the remakes of La Isla and Bora Bora, Vienna, and Cuzco. And you have almost $200,000 raised because you've got people trying to get in on the full set of 6 of them, but I think you also have people that are maybe looking at some of the add-ons, and we'll talk about that in a second. I have to raise the question, though, right now is that, you know, this Kickstarter comment section is a hot dumpster fire. You will have people with their pitchforks and their torches, and I give Queen a little bit of credit here because they're actually wading into the comment section and answering and getting some of those things sorted out. But again, if you're really launching this and expecting a little bit of goodwill, I mean, hopefully you have those things sorted out before launching the next campaign, because you literally just ran a campaign like less than 2 months ago for your leftover stock. This is the other interesting timing thing of this. If you look over here on the pledge levels, they have this being delivered in 6 months. It's all being manufactured in Europe. They're saying they're going ecological friendly. They're getting rid of the game trays, but they have not reduced the price point. And so it's a little bit of an interesting dichotomy there with you're making a little bit of a less deluxeification, but you are actually not really changing the price point at all. And is some of that because of where you're manufacturing? Is some of that because of how you're changing some of the manufacturing? Is some of that just inflation? I have no idea. This is a new collaboration, like I said there, La Isla, Bora Bora, Vienna, Cuzco, and these are updated versions. Cuzco being the edition of Bora Bora, where you're using multifaceted dice worker placement that are going to be manipulated on a turn-by-turn basis, where the strength of the die is dependent on the pips and the order in which you play them down into the different areas through a 3-phase situation that you will be doing to basically appease the Incan gods. So the rulebook here is a little bit more I want to say dense than Vienna. Vienna is relatively straightforward. You can see how you're going to be placing the dice here, the blessings and the action spaces that you're going to be dealing with, the resources that you're going to be gathering, all of the different, I think 6 or so different actions that are going to be available to you. And then it runs you through down the farming and then resolving the board depending on where the status tracks are as you go along. And through 6 rounds, you'll play until the winner is decided at the end. The deluxeifications are what they are. I wasn't terribly overly pleased by the amount of deluxeifications or the deluxeifications that came with Hamburg. So, we'll see. Mileage may vary, and definitely play may change my opinion on that, but we'll see. And then it gives it a little bit of everything else, including custom sleeve coins and a challenge coin. Vienna here is a re-implementation of La Isla, and you're going to be taking secret information tiles and bribe tiles and using your agents to surround those secret agent tiles at city locations in order to retrieve the secret information, but also to score victory points over, I believe, 8 rounds of this game. And you've got this interesting action tableau down here that you can see at the bottom of this little picture that goes through. You have 3 phases of cards that you're going to be placing, and then when you take the end of the round, you're going to take one of those cards from the top and place it underneath the bottom of your board to give you the special action or power that this will provide with you the rest of the game until you decide that it's no longer good for you, because you can only have 3 at the bottom. And so starting with the 4th round, you're going to have to take one out, remove it, and put one of the new ones in. 3 phases that you're going to be putting cards in, but 4 phases overall that you're going to be taking your turns with. They're the screen printed meeples. That was a whole nother video earlier this week. And then they run you through some of the expansions and the same stuff with the other stuff. So nothing new there. John Gets Games and Man vs. Meeple, the only information out there that you're going to find in actual play, apart from the rule books here, which I've read both through to give you this synopsis. Like I said, Cuzco, definitely a little bit denser, definitely a little bit more deep. Is it better though? That's really the question, and that's the comparisons I don't really see anywhere out there. Now, here's the other issue I have, right? If you're like me, if you saw that at the top at the very beginning of this, I'm pledging for $1 because I'm asking, okay, what is this going to look like? I am looking at potentially getting a copy of Marrakesh. Marrakesh has made me really interested since the early information has come out about it at backers' delight. But the issue with it also is that you've included that you can get them in the add-ons, you can get them in the pledge manager essentially, but you have not freaking included any price point issues, which again, you also have literally no questions answered in the FAQ. So that really irks me. It's like, I can't remember the last campaign that said, hey, here's a bunch of add-ons, but we're not going to tell you the prices and good luck, and maybe we'll tell you them later. Like, have you not actually filled them out? Are they actually going to be any sort of discounted price? Are they going to be similar to what the previous crowdfunding price is? Or are they going to be the significantly inflated retail prices that we've seen a couple of them on the website? Again, not saying that they aren't worth that, but what's the incentive for me to get into the pledge manager versus to wait for you to open up the website? Show me that, and there's nothing here. Other people in the comment section are also saying, well, I've got a numbered thing here. How do I get my right number? Well, they've actually given you stickers, it appears, above, so you can sticker on the right number in case you're wondering about that. And then they run you through all the differences. And you can see the shipping. Australian people get hosed. One game costs 38, 2 games is 90. Some guy in the comment section was like, can I get my game shipped separately so it saves me 14 bucks? Anyway, they're shipping from Europe. And again, like I said, the shipping date is August. So that's crazy early. These must already be like fully done and just need to basically be hitting the trigger soon after the crowdfunding campaign of the production button. So that's what you need to know about Vienna and Cuzco. How do you feel about this, especially on the heels of the other ones? So take it for what it is. There you go. Now, the next two up we're going to talk about, because again, it's sort of mixed feelings on this. And I guess that's the common theme between all three of these, the three biggest that launched this week. And this one is Ascension Tactics Inferno. Everyone says this is a great game. It's got over an 8 rating on Board Game Geek, which is really, really good. Over $200,000 already at the time of me filming this, which is really impressive. Now, the interesting thing in here is that they have gone full miniature as the deluxeification, right? And they just did the same thing with the original campaign, but the difference being in the original campaign, they only offered the miniature pledge. And in this one, they're actually offering, if I scroll up here a little bit, you can see the Tactics Inferno, which is a copy just with standees, but it says it contains the non-mini stretch goals. Well, this is where the confusing thing I was a little bit, bewildered by, right, I guess. So when you go back to the original campaign here, you can see some of the stretch goals here. None of these are marked Kickstarter exclusive, except for the miniature ones. So my assumption is, if I'm reading this correctly, that all of the non-miniatures, these cards, the gameplay content, was exactly the same at the retail level as it is and the Kickstarter exclusive level. You're just getting extra miniatures, right? And that's what it appears to be. So we'll go back to this in a second. You'll understand why I'm bringing this up, right? First day backing, you already missed past this. You get a free foil and you get your name in the rule book or the box or whatever, right? And new mechanics, new rules, no dice rolling with this. It's giving you new modes as well as PvP, cooperative, solo, and I think team as well. One new faction here. And these are the pledge levels. $60 for the retail version, which I just said, if it's exactly the same as last time, $60. We'll talk about that in a second. $135 gets you all the miniatures with that. So that's $75 worth of miniatures there if you're doing the math. And if you're getting everything, including the deluxeifications, it's going to be another $40. Everything is $350. So then they run you through, okay, here's all the stuff. Here's the only exclusive with the miniature box as so far. They're doing a little bit of daily unlocks here, as well as then a little bit of stretch goal money-wise. But I'm assuming, again, they're going to be very similar to last time. A couple videos, same people that did the first time around. And then that's about it. You're building your team of champions. You're upgrading with your decks. You're drawing. You're playing them. You're moving them around the battlefield to knock each other out. And we're going to see what else they have here. Now, this is the original rule book here, previews some of the new rules, but they're going to show, I guess, more in the updates about what's actually going to be elsewise new and different with this standalone expansion. It reminds me very much of the other standalone games like Nemesis Lockdown, Nemesis, Aeon's End, War Eternal versus Aeon's End, right? Like almost routinely, Arcadia Quest and Arcadia Quest Inferno, that one's a little bit split. Almost routinely, people tend to recommend the second iteration because it irons out all of the other wrinkles. Now, why am I talking about the price point though, right? Well, I'm talking about the price point because, as you saw me mention, it's $60 here. And if we go back over to the original campaign, you can see that the core game with the miniatures here was $99. That's fine. That's fine, no big deal. But like I said, there's nothing. So then you have to go to the retail to say, okay, what does retail look like? And here you go over to Board Game Oracle. At the time of me filming this, you can buy this for $42. You can get it with free shipping for about, 45-ish if we round and you get the $100, which you're going to do, right? That's only like one other game on here from Card House. So $45 for the base game, which you go back then over here and you say, okay, If this is going to be the same thing, this is $60. Okay, you know what? You want to support the publisher? Fine, that makes a lot of sense. Until you go down here at the bottom and you see that shipping on just the retail version is going to be $25, even to the US, which is the cheapest. And then you're talking $85 for a $40 game. Again, that's not insignificant. That is literally the price of a whole nother game for getting it slightly earlier. Obviously, the big incentive then is to get the miniature one, which is only going to cost you $5 more. But there's really, and this is why I kudos a couple campaigns last week and the weeks before, like not having that retail pledge. Like it makes no sense to get this retail pledge unless you're like in the rest of the world where this just doesn't come to retail at all. And then, I mean, you're still paying probably close to $100 to get this pledge essentially in the rest of the world just for the base game, which is a lot of money. So that's the thing I just have to question, because again, there's no exclusives from gameplay. So if you just want the gameplay, there's really no incentive to get it on the campaign. And I say that as someone who really, really, really wants this game. Like this game is now super high on my wish list because of the things it's doing and skirmish and deck building, two of my favorite mechanics overall. But, you know, I have to also look at it as a consumer and say, $40, because again, I've seen people selling them on the secondary market for $30 or $35 versus $80. That's a lot of change difference. You know, as someone with a family, I can't discount that. So I think it looks great. I think it looks fantastic. I just don't think it's a great value if you only want the gameplay and you don't want the miniatures. If you want the miniatures and you're going to paint them, man, go for it. It's going to look awesome. It's going to have good table presence. But me, you know, Team Standee. There we go. Now, next up here, we're going to go over to Lords of Vegas. This is the relaunch. Kind of got myself in trouble with them, I think, as a side anecdote here for the 6 people that are listening at this point. They reached out on Reddit like a while ago after they like canceled, and they said, hey, we're revamping this, and hey, what do people think? And then one of the comments they replied to one of the people on there that responded to them was, hey, you know, we've got these a couple copies floating around. And so I messaged them and I said, hey, I'd be interested. Here's my channel. And then a couple days later, they got back to me and they sent me a link back of one of my videos where I was criticizing them. And I was like, okay, yep, you know, that's fair enough. If, you know, I criticize you and you don't want to send it to me, you know, it's cool. It's cool, man. You could have just said no thanks, but anyway, I mean, this hobby, I love it. Lords of Vegas, 6-player base set. This one also, though, has me, you know, they're not going to like this, scratching my head price-wise. Again, not because I think this is a bad price. I think this is actually, you know, much better revamped, and that's why they're almost at their funding goal in the first day, and that's why they're almost at how much they funded before they canceled just within the first 24 hours here. And what I'm going to talk about here is the 6-player base set. And they have 2 different expansions that they're offering. They have this Americano, which is the 4 new cities that they showed last time. And then they have this sort of modular combo platter as well. And then you go down here and you see the newly revamped 6-player base game for $65. Now, if you go back over to the original campaign, the previous one that they launched and canceled, you can see that that same set went for $90 on here. Like, what? Again, that's $25 difference for the same product. Has something been cut out? Has something been changed? Like, it doesn't make sense that you can change it that dramatically. Or were you just really charging that much more overhead and profit on the first time around? And that's where I, you know, that's kind of where I'm wondering. So again, you have the $40 and the $50 one here. And if we go back over here, the same one that was $40 was $65 on this one. Again, $25 difference. Are you undercutting things now and gonna run into money issues, or were you just vastly overcharging on the first one? I didn't see anything specifically on this one that said it's going to be that much drastically different. I mean, they say that you're still getting the wooden pieces and the revised everything on here that they've done, and they run you through all the graphic design and all the changes they've made aesthetically down here at the bottom. They run through the 2 expansions that they're giving here, the Americana, which is the different lords of, and then you get the Underworld expansion here that's also available from one of their previous campaigns. The Odd Job one is the Con Jobs, that comes with a little bit more sort of a modular event, convention events that you can throw in with the base game as well. You just need the base game to play either one of these expansions here. So, I mean, again, I think this is probably a really good price comparatively to the second market. And I think if you get one of these, I think you'd be very happy. I guess maybe not having played it, looking at one or the other. I'm not sure if you need both. But like I said, that's a big difference from the first campaign time around of the prices on there. So what changed? Or is there other stuff aesthetically that they just haven't listed here that is significantly different? And and if there is, great. I mean, if they cut out some other stuff, it would just be nice to know, okay, what caused you to actually make a price change from 90 to 65 instead of me just speculating? Because, I mean, I don't like to speculate. I don't like to guess because invariably I also screw up and I'm wrong. And I don't want to get it wrong. I want to put out accurate information on any product that I can. So I just wish there was more information on that. And they run you through how to play all the other stuff. You get all the add-ons. You get the upgrade pack if you have the Mayfair edition, which you don't need to get. They say it's completely compatible as well. And plenty of videos that are going to tell you that this is a classic good game. So, I mean, great. Absolutely fantastic. The trickiest part here, just as a last side note, if you go to the FAQ, you'll notice that this combo platter is a combination of Americana and the con jobs. You cannot get con jobs just by itself. You have to get something else along with it, whether that's the base game, whether that's Americana or one of the other expansions. So just an FYI there, but people like the revised edition. I mean, definitely a lower price point is going to help you. Again, it's just kind of one of those where that was a bigger drop than I was expecting price point wise. So take that for what you will. Next up, we have a rolling Meow, the cat burglar, literally playing as a cat, as a burglar. And I remember this designer's other roll and writes on Radix, and you might recognize the other ones down here. They did a lot of game bundle, like it was actually like a bundle of all these print and plays. And then Island Alone, I think, was last year as well. And so this is just the latest of his, and it's a print and play, and it's going to cost you like €5 or €8, depending on how you want to do it, if you want to get everything or not. And I love it because you can just go out and print it and laminate it. So you're literally a cat burglar, like I mentioned, roll and write, fantasy world, hiding, sneaking, planning, and lock picking. You're going to be rolling 4 dice and then allocating them to different spots on your board in order to take these different actions. You get to choose a cat. That's going to be different every game if you want to. You're drawing and rolling for the loot that you have to steal, and then you get to action selection and move around, trying not to make too much noise, Assassin's Creed style. So you get all your points of stealth, agility, and strength to make set actions, special actions, lock picking. I mean, this seems really cool. It seems something different. If you have any interest in this, I'd highly suggest checking this one out. There's not a lot of information. There's no rule book, but there's a couple of videos right here about the basic rules and then a little bit of a Kickstarter preview. So this one, along with the next one up, are 2 games that I really think from a roll and write side of things you should check out. The other one, which they actually sent me the file to basically print this one off of, and this is Bound. This is an abstract strategy game. If you know me, I like abstracts, right? It's got $1,100. It's well worth it. I'd say go check it out. It's £1 freaking pound. Go get it. All you have is you have this little center shape, this little circular with a flower in the center, and you put 4 of your tokens on the outside, you put 4 of your tokens on the inside, corresponding to some of these intersections, these vertices, and then you match them up on the outside, the 4 of the 5 of them on the outside. And then all you do is you move one of them, one intersection every single turn, one of the 4 pieces, and if you ever trap somebody's piece and they can't move, you win. That's the whole concept of it. You need to go get it. Look, it's right there. That's how you match it up. That's how you move it around. And that's all you're doing. See, that's all you're doing. And so you can play with anything. And this is a great game. So check this one out. Like I said, they sent it to me. I haven't had a chance to talk about it previously, but I wanted to include it here because both of these deserve your money and are going to get more playtime for value than anything else. That's why we talk about them. That's why we cover them on the channel. Next up, Agueda, Color Field, and Donut Shop from 25th Century Games. It's about 2/3 of the way funded already at this point. Agueda being the umbrella game, Color Fields being literally a color abstract academy. If you remember me covering that previously on a little video months ago about games running through quick reviews, it's probably like almost a year ago at this point. Very similar to that. And then Donut Shop, where you are basically set collection pattern matching-esque and also boxing them up to take them out of play as well. There's a little bit of add-ons for each of these as well, Bromos promo packs and Bromos promo coins. A bunch of videos on here. If you go over to the Board Game Geek page for any of the 3 of these, you can get the rule books. The rule books aren't linked on here. They link to the tabletop simulator, but then you can check out the rule books right here. They're all linked on the individual sections for each of these books. Agueda here essentially is going to have 2 different things that you're going to be doing. You're going to be taking these umbrellas in diagonals, not up and down, not horizontal, but diagonal rows. And if you take the one with one, you get an extra gold, but then you're going to be taking all of them, sort of Azul style, where if you take them, you have to then fill a row with all of the ones that you have. If you cover these certain little splotch areas, then you get to flip over some of your little meeple friends. And if you flip over more of these meeple friends, then you get more bonuses and more endgame scorings. Those are the murals essentially. And then you also are going to be attracting tourists down here, as you can see, attracting the meeples from the previous other spots to an open tourist spot to score that whole row. Relatively straightforward. Color field is very similar to the Abstract Academy game. You have these painted tiles and you're just going to be taking them off of the little palette here and placing them onto your own individual board and trying to mix and match colors of palettes in sort of, again, a very set collection-esque style. Donut Shop is also going to be very similar. What you're doing is you're putting down a 2x2 donut tile out next to the center tiles, and then depending on how much adjacency you have in 2 different ways, you're going to be scoring points in 2 different ways on your turn. But then you also have the ability to box them up, quote unquote, and put some of these box tiles over them as well in order to score them or prevent other people from being able to play them. Again, that runs you through a little bit of the brief overview here, but it's almost too brief to actually get a good sense of the gameplay. So you can check it out in Tabletop Simulator. They also have links to the rules above as well as on Board Game Geek. So either way, you can see what you want there. Agueda is definitely a more expensive game. It's a little bit longer. It's going to be a little bit more detailed, but it's going to be a little bit higher production as well. So it's probably a little bit higher than I would have expected for any of these, but not unreasonable either. My biggest advice is go for the one you want. Don't go for all 3 just because you're going to save more money. I said this with all play and board game tables too. Go for the one that intrigues you the most, and that is where you're really going to save the most money. So there you go, 25th Century Games. Now, A Million Games is coming back. If you remember Sauria, this is another in the dinosaur line of the Jurassic Park style games where you're going to be taking actions, you're going to be exploring, you're completing secret objectives, and you're going to be avoiding or capturing or befriending dinosaurs depending on how you feel. Now, this is going to be also in the core game, similar to Inferno earlier. It's going to be a core of just standees, but you can offer miniatures as an additional add-on if you so choose. This is the Claw of Sauria, which is the new expansion, which is adding more dinosaurs, adding a cooperative mode, as well as adding just a little bit more companions as well to sort of make up for the difficulty when you're playing with less players in the co-op mode. They say you've got some stretch goals here, again adding even more dinosaurs. I think they say 6 in the original base game, and now with the stretch goals you're going to be getting up to 2 more at least so far, assuming they hit this funding goal, which they're just about to hit at the time of me filming. A few more characters, a new hybrid, and they run you through a little bit of the old stuff as well as what the new stuff is here as well that I just mentioned, and everything that's going to be in there so you can see the standees. And then they run you through all of the pledge levels down here at the bottom, and they run through everything that's out there. The original core game is going to cost you $69, but the new expansion is going to cost you $35. How is this different? How is this a little bit unique in that sense? Well, I mean, it's definitely less Euro and it's more Amerithrash, and the 24-page rulebook runs through a lot of the examples because you're also going to be dealing with lava in rounds like what they say, like 9, 10, or 11 or something like that. You're going to be doing combat. You're going to be playing the game, having an event phase, sort of a pandemic-esque style, where something bad is, or potentially bad is going to happen, or even something good. And then you're going to be having the lava phase, if that's then, and then you're going to be taking all of your actions. Dinosaurs then go after you. You clean up, rinse, and repeat. That's it. I'm not going to go into too much more detail because, again, 24-page rulebook. I don't want to bore you guys. But, I mean, you don't get an 8-point rating on Board Game Geek by being bad. I like the fact that they've separated out all these other miniatures, so if you want to get just those, you can easily. And if you want to get like a super ton pledge, you can also check that one out as well. That's Claw of Sauria though, so I thought I would mention it because it's doing really well, getting $20,000 ready at this point. So check it out. Next up, we have sort of the other sleeper here this week. Again, Very small, great looking sleeper hits of the week now with Bound, with the Cat Burglar, and Tether here. 2 players or 2 teams. That's probably the biggest limitation with this one. It sort of has the game vibe, but in a different sense of what you're going to be doing is you're going to be playing these cards down adjacent to each other instead of on top of each other. And the concept is relatively simple, right? Thematically incorporating tethering astronauts next to each other based on consecutive card numbers. Cards you can see here, they're going to be oriented one way or the other. One is going to give you one direction of a number and the other is going to give you the other. So the example here is 18. You spin it around, the other person sees 81. One person is going to be playing horizontally, one person is going to be playing vertically adjacent to each other. What you're doing on your turn is you're just either playing down a card or connecting groups next to each other to tether them together. If you pass a certain threshold of a group that has not scored the threshold yet of 6, 10, or 14, then you score points based on the width and or the length depending on which player you are. And so you're both going to get scored. So you want to get it more your direction, they want to get it more in their direction. But if anyone scores greater than a 14 card group, the game ends. Or if you are ahead by 6 or more points, the game also ends. If you cannot play or connect a card, you set one adrift. And so on your turn, those adrift ones can then be used later on by you or the other person to then reconnect them back to the original board itself or multiple areas or groups that you have, because you don't have to just have one group. The deluxe edition here just comes with 2 dials for keeping score, as well as a full color print and play files and some digital art. Otherwise, the one here seems just as good, and the price point for that is $15 versus $20. So save yourself $5, get the smaller version. Tell them Liege Games sent you to check this one out because it's only 50% funded at the time of me filming this, not even. And yeah, I'll probably be backing this one after I film the video. So there you go. Take that for what you will. Now we're going to go up to Reviving Kathmandu. Again, this is by another couple with a game design under their belt of 2 previously ones. The most recent being Bagchal, one that I covered recently in a video talking about 11 small box games. It was a tiger versus sheep sort of abstract style game. This is Reviving Kathmandu, where you are going to be bidding on sort of a 4x4 or where you're going to be bidding in a 2x2 grid, putting coins down, trying to get those to build your own tableau in a set collection type manner. But if you don't get the ones that are out there, you're drawing from another pile, because every turn you need to gather 2 cards until I believe it's 8 rounds that you play. You can play competitive, you can play teams, or even solo. I love the artwork here, and you get a little hollow foil expansion for early backers in the first 3 days. So by the time you guys are watching this, you're already SOL. Sorry, I can't do anything about that one. A little bit of a deluxeification there with wood point markers and wooden coins. And then they run you through a little bit of what the actual play is down here, if we can get there. The open market you fill up. Now you can play with 5 to 6 players, and then it's going to be a 2x3 grid, but you're going to be bidding horizontally or vertically. And if you bid the highest, you get those 2 cards that you're going for. If you don't bid the highest, then you obviously don't get them. And then you're going to be drawing, and from the other piles that are going to fill this red pile over here, which, I mean, you may get what you want, but you may not. And then you're building your tableau, scoring it, and going over 8 rounds, you win. The rule book is right there. It's straightforward. There's enough information out here to play it, and everything you need to see is on the page. You can get a print and play, or you can get the deluxe version for $35. And I believe they said for every game that they sell on here, they're also going to be sponsoring getting a temple rebuilt or contributing money from a charity side of things for that. So yeah, all this other stuff, including Chili Mafia. That was their other game. I couldn't think of it earlier. Expansion for this as well. So a few stretch goals. That's all you need to know. They did a great job delivering Bagchal. I mean, I'll be frank with you, it's probably not going to stay in my collection. It's probably not going to be a game that I am, looking forward to playing. We just didn't feel like it was quite as balanced as my wife and I thought. Again, I can't say how we played it or if we played it enough to know necessarily, but it just wasn't one of our favorite abstracts. But they absolutely delivered on time. I think they were actually early, and the production quality is great. So I don't worry about the product at all. It's just whether or not this game is right for you. And that is Reviving Kathmandu. I rhymed there. Did you catch that? Next up, we have Dig Your Way Out, Dig In Expansion, which is literally less than $100 at the time of me filming this from funding. So by the time you see it, it's going to be well over 100% funded. And what this is an expansion for the original Dig In. Dig In is a game where you are playing either teams or head-to-head, where you are trying to, well, escape a prison. And so thematically incorporated, the actions are definitely going to reflect what you're doing here. So on your turn, you have a certain number of surge cards that you're going to have in your hand, starting with 3 of them. You're going to be able to take 2 basic actions every single turn that you're going to be doing. Actions that are specific to certain locations, but actions also that can be done at any location. Obviously, if you get them at certain locations, they're going to be slightly stronger. So for example, to get more search cards, if you're searching in certain areas, you may draw 1, 2, or 3 cards. You can only have 10 at the end of your hand or into the round in your hand. So again, how you do that, where you do that is going to make a big difference. And it has just a whole bunch of different locations that are going to offer you a whole bunch of different options here. You can see that you're going to be doing everything from crafting to combat to intimidating, extorting, playing an action card, joining a gang, or moving. And so those are all the different things that you're going to be doing, and they're all going to have different effects and different ways to help you. And you're going to be battling even with the extortion there, where you're going to try to play a weapon card to get somebody else's card to steal one from their hand. And you have the ability to dig, sell, buy, as well as steal and heal from that. Now you have an optional expansion that goes along with this here originally, but the expansion that they're offering here is going to get you 6 new locations, as well as a prison warden who is going to be actively wandering around the board trying to send you to solitary, but you can also bribe to avoid going in that section. So there's going to be a little bit of exclusives that they say are not going to be available at retail, and that's one of the other reasons that you're going to be getting it, as well as getting it slightly earlier and slightly better price point. That's about everything you need to know. That's all the information on the page that is relatively important for you. They run you again down through the 6 different locations here. They're going to be slightly different and affect the actions slightly differently that I just mentioned. The rulebook is there. The shipping is going to be whatever it's going to be. And you can get both games or one of their other previous ones. Speaking of prices, right there. Anyway, so that's what you need to see. And that's everything on the page. It's going to be delivered in December by the end of the year. So, I mean, I don't really have any interest in it, but it looks solid. And the fact that it's getting expansion, it's funded in less than 24 hours is really impressive. So there you go. Next up, we're going to do briefly, because I mean, it's crowdfunding, right? It's board game related. It's Game Boy Geek Season 11. Season 11, that seems like a long time. Again, he's going to be funded here by the time you guys watch this, and it's not insignificant. Going through all the benefits you're going to get, you have the bonus content, basically a year's subscription to like his Patreon version of things here, facilitated by a private Facebook group. But then you also have the promo pack, which is going to cost you $50. I like the fact that they just said, hey, there's one promo pack, you get them all on $50. So I like that a little bit better than the Dice Tower model, where they split up and you can never get the ones you want because you have to get all 4 bundles. So I like this better. The other thing that Game Boy Geek here has done that has been really well received, and where a lot of the money gets raised usually, is they have all these game bundles. You'll see a couple of these over here that as I'm scrolling, but you can see how long this is for the bundles, and I'm assuming a lot of the bundles that are really, really good are already the ones that are sold out here down at the bottom, often with previous Kickstarter ones, including like here, like the Foundations of Rome bundle, for example, and you get the promo pack. So he's put out some good values, got some good support. There's a couple of promos in here that I actually would like to see. I actually got my review copy of War of the Ring, the card game. I finally got it over the promo copy that I had previously, but I didn't get the promos. So I was a little disappointed by that. And there's a couple others in here that I'd be interested in. So I'll probably eventually buy some of these off of people separately. And they go through all of the other retail packs here, including other hot games like Sagrada Artisans and a few others that you may have recognized previously from crowdfunding. Bot Factory right there, Wayfarers of the South Tigris, Starship Captains as well, which is not crowdfunding. And again, just running through everything there, it's relatively straightforward. I like that they did this. Hey, speaking of that, actually, I'll point this out really quick at the bottom. A bunch of 25th century games, Volumino. Keep that on your radar. That's a really actually fun little filler game that I just played the other day. So take that for what you will. But that is a little bit of a brief overview of Game Boy Geek. Check it out if you want to support him and see what he's got going on bundle-wise by the time you check it out. Next up, we have Kuiperium. Again, 200% funded. That's relatively impressive in the first 90 minutes, they say. So this is another spacefaring game. What are you doing differently, and what do you need to know about this one? This is definitely a different spin on things. I thought this was originally going to be like a 4X game, but it's actually really card-based. So you start out with 5 cards in your hand, and what you're going to be doing on your turn is you're going to be playing one of these cards and then taking an action. And so when you play these cards, they're going to have special abilities on them that are going to activate, but you're playing them to this grid that you can see here in the main board. And you have to place them adjacent to another card that's already played or adjacent to the main center part of the board that already has action spots on it. And so that's going to limit where you can put it and what do you put it next to. But what you're doing is you're playing them essentially on the board. But the interesting thing is you get the unique ability that they're going to do, or the unique ability that they're going to give you when you recall your workers. But they are spots that your opponent is going to be able to play on. So every card that you play gives them an additional spot that they can play on. So you're not only trying to put down the one that's going to give you the most benefit, but maybe not the one that's going to give the best benefit when the worker gets placed there by your opponent. And so then you're going to be recalling your workers and taking those actions as well when they come back to you. You're also going to have a secret lab that you can play cards to that will stay there and that'll give you special bonus game content. That will give you special bonuses. There's cards that can be played there only, but cards that also can be played there as an addition to on the main board. You can see here they run you through, okay, how you're going to be playing them. You can see how they're all getting placed adjacently, and the workers are getting placed down next, and they're going to be racing across this discovery track in order to get to the end first to cause the end game scoring. If you go over to the rulebook here, you can see some of the recall rewards, like when I mentioned when you pull your workers back off these locations, it runs you through all of the different things that you can be doing, and that's not insignificant amount of actions. They run you through some of what the keywords that you're going to need to know, and there's a blank FAQ down here at the bottom that you don't need to see. So going back to the page over here though, this is what you're doing, this is what you're setting up, this is what you're doing from a combo standpoint with the synergies as well between the different colors of cards. What's the price point for this one? I didn't actually look at this beforehand, so it's not actually a bad price point. It's only about $50 right now. That's a Kickstarter edition, and that is the lower pledge level, and then there's also a deluxe edition here with the Kickstarter exclusive cards, naming your credit, and the Founders edition. And now what's the actual edition difference here? Let's go scroll down here and see the difference. Stretch goals, rewards, meet the team. Didn't actually see that. Okay, what's the difference here? It's going to be delivered around the end of the year. So I don't know. I don't see the difference between the levels right here. I guess whatever that is right there. I'm probably just missing it. So take that for what it is. I'm sure you guys will find it on the page much faster than I did. But that's sort of Kuiperium. Check it out. Interesting premise. Gives me definitely vibes of like a Rockin' Wars, only with like space theme. So we'll see. I'm probably going to watch some of this video because I wasn't expecting to be this intrigued by a card-based laying concept in space. So there you go, Kuiperium. Talk a little bit here as well about the Art of Kilforth and the Kilforth game reprint. So they got $32,000. This one came out of nowhere. It was just recently relaunched this week at the beginning, but it didn't have a whole lot of announcement. And so basically what you're getting is the Art of Kilforth as well as the reprints, because again, this is a game that has not gone to wide retail. And Tristan Hall has really put out a good, solid quality product that people really seem to like. And it seems to hold its value relatively well just because it's not available. A lot of deluxifications, and I think there's about 3 editions of this game as well, but it looks like they're actually offering new content. A dark art expansion, alternate promo cards or duplicate cards essentially there. And then this is another box of unique ventures that add more encounters and more rewards to your deck. So I didn't think there's actually gonna be new stuff, but yeah, there you go, including the gameplay. So it's just expensive to get all of them. So that's really the question, is people tend to have 1 of them or 2 of them. Because they seem very similar. It seems like a first edition, second edition, and like 1.5 or 2.5, depending on how you want to look at it. They've also got some mini packs here, which is also very interesting. I wouldn't have expected that. And they have their previous games, so they're basically offering their whole catalog to go along with the art print and a little bit of new content. So yeah, speaking of backing small publishers, right? This is one of those. So if you're really interested in doing something like that, this is the one to check out. And delivery is middle of the summer, so not too far off either from that side of things. They're probably just waiting to hit the print button and get shipped. So there you go. Kilforth, covering it. Everything you need to know. Now we're going to talk about Dim Sum. I think it actually launched last week, but we're going to cover it this week because, I kind of skipped last week a little bit. And Dim Sum, the dual 2-player game of Dumpling proportions. And what you're going to be having is you're going to have 2 sets of identical decks, and you get to rearrange the deck in any way you want before the game. So you have to know a little bit about what you're doing with this sort of action manipulation style thing. You're going to be protecting your own bun containers, and you have to be knocking out the opponents. And you're going to have a bunch of symbols that are going to allow you to take different types of actions in this up to 15-minute player game, in order to end up with the most dumplings at the end. The rules are right there. I mean, there are your actions on the other side that gives you the full description. It tells you how to play. Set them in your order. 3 cards face up sitting out there. Take turns playing 1 card back and forth in order to put your steamer out, to put dumplings in it, to cover it, or to eat your opponents, or to even block them from doing what you need to do. And you just go until you run out of cards, and whoever has the most dumplings at the end wins. There's a video of how to play it as well there. The pledge level is only going to cost you $14 for a copy, so there you go. Light filler, 2-player dueler in a completely different thematic incorporation than we've ever seen. So if you have any interest in it, plenty of other video down here as well. So a few Instagram posts in addition, but I wanted to cover it because it's kind of cool looking. Dim Sum, check it out. How could I forget Street Fighter V Champions Edition Legends over from Colossal Games? Now, a lot of you are going to have concerns. A lot of you are going to say, oh, this is Blacklist. No, this isn't Blacklist. Blacklist over the property. Colossal's taking care of pretty much everything now. And so this one, funded, already over 100%. It's got 20 days left. This is a very interesting system because the combos that you're doing in this game were a little bit different than I expected, because you're having card play that is then stimulating or being able to be used with additional symbols on those cards you're initially playing on your tableau, essentially, to play off the powers that you can see that each individual character has 4 of here. And then you're going just with a very easy setup, 3 boards, 1 big ones and 2 small ones, putting out minions, a nemesis eventually, and rivals that each of your characters are going to have to battle along the way. Now, the only way you win is if you beat the nemesis, but the rivals and the minions are going to get your way trying to knock you out in the first place. And so you're going to be playing this in sort of a pandemic style where, you know, you go, bad guy go, you go, bad guy go, you go, bad guy go. And the minions are going to be continually spawning on these spawn points. There's going to be a little bit different objectives when you have each individual different board. And they've got a combination here of standees and miniatures. And, you know, my big criticism on my review video, if you want to check that out, I'll throw it above, was that I wish they would have gone full plastic or full standee. Personally speaking, I wish they would have gone full standee, because I think the color standees match the aesthetic of the simplistic nature of the board setup in the first place. And the miniatures are small, and so the detail just isn't quite there. It's going to be hard to paint. And so, especially when you've had another game, Street Fighter's the miniatures board game, already out there setting the gold standard for pre-painted ones or painted miniatures in general, you know, pre-painted in that sense, not people painting their own, but you know, that's hard to compete aesthetically. Now, if you had some of those, you could obviously port those in, but yeah, this is what you're getting here. The other thing I had a concern about, especially at the higher player counts, or even just sometimes at the lower player counts, is it went a little bit longer than I thought. It was a little bit longer of a slog, because you have to beat like a two-sided character, and because the dice have about a 50% chance, at least on my prototype copy, of missing each attack, and you only have so many rolls that you get on some of these attacks. So you may have 3 dice, 3 of the sides are blanks, 2 of the sides have 1 hit, 1 of the side has 2 hits, and you have 2 of those dice, and your enemy has 4 hearts or 4 health that you have to get hits for. So can you get 4 off of those 2 or 3 dice? That's very, very difficult. And you can mitigate it a little bit, but even then it's a heavy dice rolling. So that's probably the biggest thing you need to know. They run you through all the other stuff that you're getting here. Now, I didn't have any access to any of the expansion stuff, although I think maybe I had like Lucia or one of these characters, but none of those essentially were in it. 4 Nemesis boards in the expansion here. What's in the base game? Just so I know, Nemesis wise. 4 Nemesis. So yeah, I mean, the Nemesis, I wouldn't mind seeing 1 or 2 extra. I think you would probably want 1 or 2 extra if you're gonna play this, you know, significantly. Plenty of player characters, but the Nemesis are going to be the big difference. The other small criticism I had was with these player abilities, I didn't feel like they were, the player abilities were fine. I didn't feel like the fighter cards that it came with it, because each of these characters has like 2 styles that they fight in, but there are similar decks that will say like, okay, you're a ranged person or you're a melee person. And so like 3 or 4 different people will have the melee tag, and you just choose the melee deck. So it's not like as specific for that character. So I wish there was a little bit more asymmetry there. Seems reasonably priced. Yeah, I ran through everything, how you're going to be playing back and forth. You can check out the summary here. Demo, rulebook, everything else is on there. I need to learn how to do thumbnails better. That's a whole nother thing. If you're looking for something lighter skirmish style, this is really easy to get to the table. Really easy. The rules overhead is very straightforward, so there's no issue, and that's probably the most accessible reason to be looking at this one if you have any interest. Now, let's go over to the Curse of Candelabria. Candelabria, it's almost 50% funded here, 24 hours in. This is from the creators of Sheol. And basically humans get turned into living candles, and you have wandering castles that you're going to be doing in an area control style manner across this massive board, managing curses, managing asymmetric powers, managing a tech tree, trying to take over. The expansions that they're adding include a 6-player expansion with one of the higher pledge levels, as well as many deluxeifications, and it's going to cost you a pretty bill from Lunar Oak here. The early bird 72 hours, I think you'll be able to get in at this point still by the time you watch this video, but the deluxeification is going to cost you 135, and then the all-in is 250. So that's not insignificant. I think it looks very intriguing, but again, I just, I kind of wish this was a little bit less deluxeified, and maybe the second time around, you went full board deluxeifications and offered upgrades. Once you've achieved a funding goal, once you've achieved some baseline of, we know this game is good, people like this game, and more people want to get this game, that'd be my only concern. Because this is, again, like I said, this is a relaunch of this. And so if they don't hit their funding goal, that's a true funding goal though. So, if they don't fund here in the first couple days, it's not going to be the hugest deal. Like Sheol barely funded at the end of the campaign. They delivered a product. I think there were some money issues. They had to ask for some more money for shipping, I think, because it was the shipping crisis. But take that for what you will. Like I said, area control. activating your land's abilities, spreading your army across. You have seasons. You are going to be having flames. Flames are going to determine the amount of powers or abilities that characters have, and you're going to be increasing your castle's power as you go across battle and fight enemies across the whole literal map. The Luxifications include the miniatures. They also include a playmat, and they include a little bit of everything else, including the solo mode, which is Blessing Curse. You can get that if you want just as a single expansion, not just bundled in. So at least if you're a solo person, that's slightly encouraging that they've managed a whole solo mode, not just shoehorning it in, at least with other things that we've seen. Early bird there, core pledge, ran you through some of the exclusive stuff. It's more deluxification here as well with some of these additional board deluxifications. And that's pretty much everything you need to see. You're really gonna have to read the rulebook to get more of a nitty-gritty detail, because there's a little bit of a longer, more detailed rulebook in general. There's a couple videos down here. They run through some of the miniatures in terms of the deluxifications as well that you can buy separately. And I think King of Average has one. And then, yeah, there you go. So that's it. I mean, we're going to see where this one goes. I'm intrigued to see if they can get this one funded as well. And we'll see where it goes, because I like the fact that they went with the true funding goal. A lot of people don't. A lot of people get turned off by that. A lot of people do fake money goals from that standpoint. But I will always give kudos to those who do this no matter what. So there you go. Next, Zoo Tiles, Fruit Baskets. Fruits Basket, I guess. This is based off a popular manga, which was then turned into anime. Shogo's one of the most popular selling shogo's of all time. And this is more of a tile laying battle animal capture set collection type game. I don't know. It's kind of, it's weird description, I know. But essentially what you have is you have these animal tiles that you're going to be starting out. And the other interesting thing on this campaign is what Japanime has done is you've got two different starter sets. And they've based them on the zodiac symbols that are in the Japanese zodiac constellation. So in one starter set here, they focus on 3 of them. The other one, they focus on a different 3 set, they say. And otherwise, they're very, very similar. What you're going to be doing essentially is you're going to be laying these tiles down on a grid, and you can see on the sides of these tiles they have little animal symbols that correspond to the bigger ones here at the top of the cards, and you have to put them next to each other that they correlate. But if they don't correlate, then you can't collect them, because when you make a square, a 2x2 grid of 4 animals, 1, 2, 3, 4 that all correlate and can touch each other successfully based on the little symbols and the big symbols, then you score that as a point. First one to 12 points wins. And you're going to be having sort of, if you remember from Brother Ming Games a few months ago when I covered their skirmish style game of React, you essentially have a very similar system here of React, where you play an action card, because you don't have to play just one of your animals down. You can play an action card that's going to manipulate the board in some way, shape, or form. Then the other person can play a React card on top of that, and then you can play a React on top of their React, and then they can play another React on top of your React on top of their React, and then they can play and you can play until someone eventually stops playing, and then you go from top to bottom and resolve all of those things if you can. And so that's going to be the other main mechanism in this game. And then they run you through, again, some of the other secondary actions, because you can do that essentially with not only actions to be taking on the board, but you're also going to be battling, and you can have a battle stack as well, they call there. And you don't have a limitation to which of these actions you can take. You can take all of these actions on your turn. You don't have to pick and choose just one every turn as well. So that's it. The only big question I have, I guess, is when I have backed Japanime games previously, they have not held their value Kickstarter price-wise versus retail-wise from my standpoint, the few that I've backed. And so that would be my only buyer beware of both of these going to be $40 at retail, and I can't see necessarily what they've got here for $40. So take that for what you will. Otherwise, it seems like a decent game. Nothing else really bad to say about it. I just don't see a lot of those powers, and I think that would be the big question: is how reactionary, how many action combo systems can you go back and forth in that sense? Because you only have so many cards in your hand. You only draw up so many at the end of your turn. So either way, it's over 100%, 200% funded. So people like what they see. There you go, Zoo Tiles. Next up, Red Dragon in 9 Undercities, new standalone expansion, 4 new characters. What else is it offering that's new? I'm not really sure. It's sort of a pseudo drinking game where you're trying to out inebriate your other opponents based on their levels of fortitude, but also trying to bankrupt them through card play, which is action and gambling and cheating. and you just go, right? You play a card and then draw a drink card, and you draw that drink card and you place it on someone else's pile, and then at the end of your turn you have to flip over one of your drink cards and move up accordingly on your drunk scale, essentially. And if your drunk scale is higher than your fortitude, you're out. If you run out of gold, you're out. Here are the 4 new characters. There's not a whole lot else on this page. I mean, it's relatively lackluster, especially considering it just launched. And they've got a bunch of dates on here that say, okay, we're going to reveal stuff. If you want to actually see what this is looking like, come check out Twitch later on the campaign. But you can check it out right on Tabletop Simulator. The $40 edition here is the Kickstarter edition, which is going to get everything you see here. There's a couple add-ons, there's a couple collector's editions, and I know there are a lot of collectors out there for this. I'm not sure the appeal, but people clearly love it. And I mean, it's got over $100,000 here by the time of me filming this, which is actually relatively insane. So there's a lot of people out there that really like this. They've got a pub crawl mode that they've revamped for this as well, and just a bunch more stretch goals in the shipping. I mean, but that's it, right? That's it, and that's why, like I said, there's not really a whole lot on this page to make me think $156,000, but people love it, so there you go. Next up, we'll do Aventuria. This is also offering a couple new expansions here, 2 new major campaign expansions, and then 2 new character expansions. So if you're new to the Aventuria, it's sort of an RPG meets card-based play, like a Sleeping Gods-esque, but it's basically as close as you're going to get to D&D, the card game, with just the events, the adventures, the actions, the upgrades, the actual system that it goes along with. I knew this was coming up a little while ago, a couple weeks ago. They sent messages out talking about if there were any reviewers that wanted to do the base game as well, that they were going to be putting out something here. Here they talk about the story mode that's going to be the new stuff. I mean, and they talk about it being a role-playing experience more than any other adventure card box game. So it's maybe like more like Pathfinder, the card game, if you will. 229 cards. It says 100 pages of new content. Here are the 2 new hero boxes. That's going to cost you a lot less than the expansions with the big box here. As you can see, this is going to get you $145. $145 for 2 expansions. That's a lot of money, folks. And then $45 just for the characters. And this is an expensive game. That's probably one of the reasons I think it's a barrier to a lot of people. This is the new to get in. This is more new to get in. And this is all of the stuff that's out there. So people like it. Again, has a following. Here's some more bundles of the previous stuff. You choose your heroes, you play your ally cards, you're rolling dice, you've got mechanics, you've got a story mode and a fate mode and encounters and upgrades and everything else. So there's enough content out there, but it's one of those that just sort of falls in between the cracks, and I don't really see a lot of people talking about it. But it clearly has a cult following from Ulysses Spiel, because otherwise you wouldn't be funding 200% of your funding goal in less than 24 hours either. So there you go. Last up, we're going to be talking about Totem Hoarder here again, which is about 75% of its funding goal, $7,500 out of 10,000, which is basically just a one-on-one dueler, 20 to 30 minutes, very quick to play with several different actions that you're going to be taking. Essentially what you need to do is you need to get these 3 totems to your side. If you attack them, they switch sides because they're invulnerable, but then you otherwise are going to be playing cards that both have an action on them that is immediately taken when you play it, but also have potentially a bonus action on the bottom of it that can be fulfilled later. You have things like poisoning, which causes the other person to lose half their cards. You have an attack value, which causes them to lose any one card. There's going to be a shield card that allows you to block attacks. They run through a lot of the symbology because they say it's language independent down here at the bottom. There are 2 expansions that you can get with it if you want to get the lower. Then the higher pledge level here gets you a playmat, and then a little bit of art, and all in. You can design your own stuff there, and those are all the other expansions that they talk about. You have an asymmetric champions expansion that's going to offer an asymmetric special ability to start the game with. And then you have an unlocked expansion here with totems that are going to give more totems that are going to have more abilities as you gather 3 of them to your side. And then it goes through the deluxifications here, the stretch goals and stretch goals and stretch goals. How to play goes through that as well in your turn. Again, you're basically just laying a card, doing actions. That's essentially it. They run through some of the effects that I just mentioned to you here. Oh, sorry. The other win condition is you can't have any of these guys down on your field. These are basically your interrupts or your reacts to stop somebody else from taking an action. So, yep. That's it. Check it out. It's doing much better than I would have expected, but you know what? That's crowdfunding for you, right? That's the roundup. Tons of games, all in one. All 6 of you that actually made it all the way through this video or watch these ones at the end, check out the sleeper picks. Otherwise, I have about 5 other videos lined up in the next week or 2. So there's just going to be a smattering of everything else. Coming this weekend, we'll also have the upcoming games for next week. Again, 2 absolutely massive killers. And my number 1 of those 2 is actually going to surprise you. So, spoilers, tune in, tease. There you go. Stay classy. Thanks for subscribing. Thanks for watching. See you around. I'm working on my thumbnails. I'm sorry. I'm working on them. I don't know. I just need something consistent. I can't get anything consistent. I'm horrible at design. If anyone out there is good at designing thumbnails or graphical design, let me know, because I need something that Liege, you know. YouTube algorithm is not good to me.